What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, and we're starting year 2 of the show. Today is the official first day of year 2, and we're going to be breaking down why European star Vasilije Micić did not join the Chicago Bulls or any NBA team this summer. We'll also be talking about Giannis and what he said about the Chicago Bulls and possibly playing here one day, which some Bulls fans have taken way out of control. We'll lastly be talking about Zach LaVine and his comments on how he pairs his athleticism with skill. And then, did the Bulls get left off the Christmas Day schedule? We'll talk about all that and more on today's Chicago Bulls Central.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
All right, Bulls fans. So, first of all, I started off in the Petty Roosevelt all black today just because I felt like blacking it all out today. So nonetheless, it's the first day of year 2 of the show. So first up, we do have Vasilije Micić, who, at points in the summer was rumored to come to the Chicago Bulls. There was heavy interest from the Chicago Bulls, even though they don't hold his rights. There were some rumors linking him to the Bulls. The Bucks came up. There were a couple of teams that came up, but we now got some details on why that didn't happen. The first one is that Micić did want a contract that ranges between $6 to $7 million per year, which, okay, considering he's probably the biggest star right now not playing in the NBA, especially in that European league. So that kind of makes sense. But he wanted either guaranteed starting spot or at least starting type minutes and a role on a contending team. Now, some people may say that role on the contending team part may have counted out the Chicago Bulls there. We'll see. Like, again, I don't really think he has that decision, especially because, whatever teams hold his draft rights is kind of where he has to come. But again, the Bulls are a playoff team. I'm going to just give it for the benefit of the doubt that he would have come over for that had the other things been available. Now, some may say, well, hey, didn't we offer Goran Dragic 20 to 25 minutes off the bench? Could we not have done that for Micić? In my opinion, I've always said I've doubted the whole Goran getting 20 to 25 minute things came from an article that was completely translated and taken out of context. And the part that kind of got viral with the 20 to 25 minutes part was an analyst giving his thoughts on it kind of out of everything that came out, not necessarily what came out of Goran's mouth. So, with that being said, would then the Chicago Bulls, should they have brought in a guy who, yes, is older but not old, right? Let's be clear here. A combo guard who could come in, play a big. Now, that is a player that I do believe could have come in and been given probably about 20 minutes per game. I do think that because he can play the 1 or the 2. He's not the best defensively, but he's not at least a black hole defensively at all where he's just going to let people go. But what he brings in playmaking and offense and just the excitement level, I would have loved the idea of Micić being on this team. But with that being said, did the Bulls miss out here? Possibly. But I think, we still have Ayo, we still have Alex Caruso. We did go ahead and bring in Goran Dragic. If Lonzo Ball's fully healthy, I don't even think we even worry about it. And at the end of the day, it seems like he's very content over there. There would have been a buyout as well for his contract over there. So I just don't see it. And then, this article goes on to say, would the Bulls that would have put them in the tax? Would they have paid the luxury tax to bring over a player that's just not a sure thing? There have been a lot of players in European basketball that have balled out, but have come into the NBA and not necessarily been able to give that same level of production. So I definitely understand the hesitation there. At the end of the day, I think the AK and Eversley, the Bulls front office, them not trying to go heavily after this guy to bring him over. And then keep in mind, they didn't have his draft right, so they would have had to trade assets to get him. I kind of understand what the Bulls did there. And maybe he eventually comes over. We'll see if a team at some point does go ahead and give all the things that he's looking for to come over to the NBA, because I do think he could be a very good player in the NBA. Do I think he'll be a star at the NBA level? No, not from what I've seen in the tape. But again, where do things have happened? And it is possible. Maybe another European player will recruit him over. But let's go ahead and move on to the next thing. In this video, as soon as this dropped and I saw it, I knew for 100% fact that Bulls fans were going to take this and run with it. And it's kind of natural to do, but we do get a video of Giannis talking about the Chicago Bulls and the possibility of playing here. I'm going to go ahead and play that now.
I think anybody who asks that question that plays basketball, if he said no, he'd be a liar. It's a team that won multiple championships. It's a team that one of the greatest players, if not the greatest player, to ever play this game played for. So it's a no-brainer. Everybody would love to play for Chicago. Down the line, you never know. You never know how life brings it. Maybe I play for Chicago, but right now I'm committed to Milwaukee.
All right. So listen. First of all, I think this. I want to give credit to this. I believe Pat did say this on the episode. DeMar DeRozan talking about the Chicago Bulls like he has, inheriting that ghost of MJ, as he said, being, for a while there, it did look like in the NBA that there were players that just didn't want, not only because our front office was kind of a POS, but on top of that, they didn't want to play under that legacy of that dynasty team. Whereas now it seems like hopefully because of DeMar DeRozan, more people do take that, and Zach LaVine too, and want to try to bring prosperity back to this storied franchise and things like that. And, while Giannis talking positively about the Bulls, I know for me, for if I had a player that was under contract that said anything about playing for another team and saying, oh, well, maybe one day, but right now I'm committed to the Bucks, I would, as a fan base, I would feel some type of way about that. But, Giannis is a free agent in 2026. Is there a possibility of that happening? Anything's possible. When you look at the way that the Bulls' salary cap is up, we'll see what happens with the extension of Nikola Vucevic. DeMar's contract will be up at that point. I think Alex Caruso's contract is also up before the Alex Caruso's contract is up well before then. That's 4 years, 4 summers from now. So the Bulls could kind of position themselves to maybe go after Giannis potentially and maybe have enough cap space for things like that. But we'll see, right? I don't want, I try to be realistic here. And I won't, while is this likely to happen, I'm going to say no. But is it damn exciting at the possibility to? Absolutely. As a Bulls fan, as someone who's not sitting here trying to analyze and be objective, absolutely. Hearing this, it did make me smile. You always want to hear your franchise talked about in positive light, and a player at Giannis's level and NBA champion talking about your team in this way, it's always going to feel good for the franchise that he's talking about. And that was the Chicago Bulls in this sense. And I do hope that more players are feeling like this. We know that the Bulls didn't have a huge free agency this offseason. They didn't. But with the way that DeMar has embraced the role in Chicago, the way that we've treated him well during a time where it seemed like the Bulls just couldn't get free agents because they just didn't want to come here. DeMar coming here at this point of his career, mentoring younger players, kind of setting the tone there. Zach LaVine choosing to re-sign here. I do hope that we start seeing that change. We also heard AK and Eversley say that there are free agents that want to come to the Chicago Bulls, that we are turning into a destination. And I hope that this continues to bode well for that. Will Giannis eventually put on a Bulls jersey? I'm pessimistic, so I'm going to say no. But if that does happen, don't be surprised if you see this video in circulation a lot come 2026, going into that summer, because people are gonna bring this back up. And like I said, it's all great and gravy, and feels great to hear your team talked about in this light, because that's what you want to see. Those are the things that you want, how you want to see your franchise talked about. Not just to say the greatness or talk about Jordan. Yeah, that's easy to do, but also talk about he said every player has thought about playing with the Chicago Bulls. And that's you hope so. You want to be talked about in that way. And you do have a lot, and we're passing the point of a lot of NBA, the young players coming to the NBA, they didn't live and they didn't see the Jordan era. So they don't have that same reverence per se for the Chicago Bulls as a dynasty, as a franchise, as some of the elder statements in the NBA do have. So hopefully we'll see that come across. Will Giannis be a Bull? If I'm going to have to make a prediction right now, I'm going to say no, just because I'm trying to be fair and honest in my evaluation. But do I hope that it happens? You're absolutely right. I hope it does. And best believe in 2026, I will be looking out for Giannis rumors to come to the Chicago Bulls. But let's move on from a potential future Bull signing to the biggest player, the player who currently signed the biggest contract in Chicago Bulls history, and that is Zach LaVine. He was interviewed on I think it was an IG live stream, and I'm going to go ahead and play the clip here just so I don't have to kind of re-say it. Let's go ahead and get into that now.
There's freak athletes that just remain freak athletes, and that basketball side of things is kind of, it's not, they're never able to pick that up. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, because the athlete part of me came second.
Yeah.
I came back to what I said. I was never known as a big-time athlete growing up. I was about 5'9", my high school. Like when I first started high school, I grew to 6'2", then 6'3", 6'4". So I always thought I had hoop game. I was always known as a scorer and a guy that, I was always fast. I could jump a little bit, but once my body not developed, but I grew into who I was going to be, and I put the work in for it. Me and my dad did a lot of plyometrics trainings and things like that, and everything came in. then came the consistency part about it. I always knew, even my rookie year, I'd have hot games, I'd up and down, but the consistency part I had to put in. So, I never wanted to be known as an athlete or a dunker. I want to be one of the best players in the world.
And this is interesting because you do see a lot of players who come in the NBA with athleticism that don't add that skill to their game. They fizzle out, right? The athleticism can only take you so far. You do have to start refining your game. You have to start adding the skill level. You have to start, and we've seen Zach LaVine continually become a more efficient player almost every year he's been a Chicago Bull. Last year withstanding because of the injuries and stuff like that. And yes, Zach LaVine has great skill. And he is a great athlete. He's been one of the rare players that after an ACL injury has come back to be the same, if not a better athlete in many forms of the game. But hearing him say this, hearing him talk about like how he had to work on skill and the athleticism for him came later. It's usually the opposite way around. Players are great athletes. That's what pushes them into sports. And then they start learning the skill as they get more ingrained in the game, as they become a bigger part of the game, things like that, as they're actually coached and coaches take them under their wing. But to hear like Zach LaVine say he was like 5'7" to start high school, and then, he eventually grew to what he is now at 6'5", like that's huge. And Zach LaVine, I know a lot of Bulls fans are down on Zach in a way because, and they didn't want to see him sign the contract because he's not defensive, what he isn't defensively, and because it would have been and now is the largest contract in Chicago Bulls history. But we have a player in Zach LaVine who is going to now be here throughout his prime, right? Is going to be a max level player. Does always work on his game. He is a player that continually works on his game. And listen, Zach LaVine to me offensively is like he can still get more efficient. You can always be more efficient, but he's not really going to add much to his game. The better decision making, yes, that we want to see. Stop dribbling the ball off your foot, Zach. But that defensive end of the game, that is where Zach LaVine's athleticism has not shown up in the way that I would think. Like the way that Zach is he has good lateral speed. He has a good wingspan. He has good positional size, things like this. You want to see Zach LaVine, and you think Zach LaVine has the tools to be a better defender. And hopefully that comes to fruition for Zach. And he does work on that aspect of his game because like I said, if Zach LaVine can get more towards that 110 defensive rating, which still isn't the best, 109, God forbid 109 or 108, that with what he brings offensively, and the efficiency that he also brings on the offensive end, at that point, you're looking at a player that's one of the better all-around players in the NBA. But he has to do that. And we've seen times and stretches where Zach LaVine, when he gives effort on the defensive end, when he's focused on the defensive end, that he does show up very, very big for. And it's on the ball defense is taking leaps. It's sometimes the off the ball thing, and that's where Lonzo Ball does help Zach LaVine because of the way that Lonzo does communicate on that defensive end. It helps Zach LaVine with off the ball defense. But I hope to continue to see growth from Zach LaVine in his game overall, but especially on that defensive end from Zach LaVine. Really offensively, he has all the tools that we want to see from Zach LaVine. He has some things that he needs to refine as well, but get that defensive game together, Zach, and then we're talking about not only just a good player, but that's when you start getting into the conversations of being a great player if you can give that consistent effort on both sides of the ball. So hopefully we see a year of growth in the defensive end for Zach LaVine. A year of, coming back fully healthy. He says that the knee is not a concern. So let's see what happens with that with Zach LaVine going forward and into the future. And, again, just positive things talked about. This has been a great offseason for Zach as well. And the things that he's done, getting healthy, the 5-on-5 practices. And, if the Bulls, which last year they did show up to training camp 2 weeks early, a lot of players decided to show up to the facility 2 weeks early. If that same thing holds true, in a week or so, or probably about more 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to start seeing Chicago Bulls players go down and start working early in that summer camp. And hopefully that just continues to build that chemistry and build on that continuity that AK and Eversley have bet on this offseason. Now, the last thing that we have before we go for today is the rumored Christmas Day schedule has come up. Let's be clear. This is rumored. This came out from Shams. It's not necessarily 100% guaranteed. Shams usually doesn't go with things that he doesn't really trust his sources on. So more than likely not, this is probably going to be the Christmas Day schedule. So we have the Bucks versus Celtics, the Sixers versus Knicks, the Suns versus Nuggets, the Lakers versus Mavs, and the Grizzlies versus the Warriors. The Bulls are left off that schedule. Now while that's interesting, and that's a nice slate of games as well. A lot of teams that made some moves this offseason have already been in the upper echelon. It's a nice matchup, except the Lakers. Does anybody really want to see? Well, the Lakers always get a Christmas Day game, but with that being said, the Chicago Bulls being left off that. And this has sent Bulls Nation in kind of a tizzy since this has been released. And the thing that I'm thinking of with this, I've been very vocal on this offseason saying that I do expect the Bulls to have more nationally televised games. Now, does this do anything to kind of maybe make that concern a little bit bigger for me? I won't lie. Yes, it has. Because you would think that the Bulls and what they were doing leading the East throughout most of the season, yes, they had a huge fall off. Yes, they were a first round exit. But you would think that, hey, the Chicago Bulls can get like we always used to get a Christmas Day game. It was always us versus the Knicks on Christmas. Is that right? But I really hope that maybe something gets added. Maybe this is just part. Like I still hold out hope. The Bulls playing on Christmas always just feels good. And if they don't have a Christmas game, I'm pretty sure they'll probably have a New Year's Day game. But with that being said, like, how big of a slap in the face is this for the Chicago Bulls? I mean, the Hawks are also left off here if you want to talk about that. That's a team that even a lot of Bulls fans think are going to be better than the Bulls. I don't, because, again, yeah, they added DeJounte Murray, but look at everything they gave up for. But nonetheless, that's a story and a conversation for another day. But what I'm saying here right now is that, I don't – it's interesting, right? These are some solid games, don't get me wrong, but I would have loved to see the Chicago Bulls play on Christmas, and hopefully when the official schedule comes out, if there are any differences, that the Bulls do get a Christmas Day game. We'll continue to monitor it and see. I still think the Bulls, right now, I'm still leaning more towards they're going to have a lot of nationally televised games, so Christmas or not, they're still going to be on TV a lot for the national audience to take a little bit more of a note for the Chicago Bulls. Hopefully they show up better and bigger on nationally televised games. That may be why the Bulls did not get a Christmas Day game, because on the games that the Bulls did have nationally televised last season, keep in mind, we lost most of those games. So that may be playing a factor and a role into that as well. Hopefully we get to see the TNT Bulls back in some shape, form, or fashion and better representative over the course of the season. But that is it. Let me know down below. What do you guys think about the Bulls potentially being left off the Christmas Day schedule? Do you think that's a big slap in the face? What do you think about Giannis and his potentially joining the Chicago Bulls in the summer of 2026? And everything. Just let me know everything down below. Sound off on this episode. I want to interact with you guys, but thank you for the first video, joining me for the first video of year 2 of Chicago Bulls Central. I love you guys so much. You are the best part of this channel, and I truly do mean that. Like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.